Yes. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this first international webinar organized by Pune branch jointly with Hong Kong chapter of ICI. I welcome you on behalf of Pune branch. With me, I have Anup Gidwani, who is a chairman of Hong Kong chapter. Also, we have with us Vice Chairman WRC Vishal Doshi, sir, Central Council member Chittare, sir, Dinesh Agarwal, a tax expert from Hong Kong, and faculty for the day, CA Dr. Girish Ahuja. Welcome all of you. It is my pleasure to have you. I welcome all the members, those who have joined. I now request Anup Gidwani, sir, to please give his opening remarks on behalf of Hong Kong chapter.
Good morning, friends in India, and good afternoon, friends in the East Asia region. At the outset, I extend my personal thanks to Abhishek, Chairman of Pune chapter, for taking this initiative to tie up with the Hong Kong chapter, which is relatively a young chapter, founded only 2 years ago, in co-hosting this webinar. We have a grouping with chapters in the region, including Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, and Japan, and their members will also benefit from this tie-up. I must thank and express my personal gratitude to Sir Ahuja ji, who's considered by many as a guru in the tax field, for giving up his Sunday morning to enlighten us and share his thoughts on the Finance Act 2020 and topical issues for NRIs. One topic of frequent discussion these days amongst NRIs is the implication on tax on dividend and the impact of DTA. Without taking up much time, I hand over the virtual digital floor to the next. Thank you.
Bhai, I request to give your opening remarks.
Yeah. Thank you, Abhishek. Good morning, Anup ji, Chitle sir, Dinesh ji, Ahuja ji, and all members of Pune branch and Hong Kong chapter of ICI. I pray for the health and safety of everyone. My personal request to members is to make most of this lockdown opportunity by doing things or activities that you would not have found time otherwise to do, maybe on your professional front or your personal front. So there can be some very basic elementary things that can also be done. I would just share one thing that I have been doing is just to sanitize my mobile phone book to ensure that the names and the other details are at the right place and the right people are there. Speaking of WRC, we are promoting and encouraging members to do research activities. Sitting from home, they can do this, for which we have shortlisted industries like healthcare, hospitality, information technology and related services, logistics, and the fifth industry is agriculture and agriculture related industries, where again we have broken up into subparts like direct tax, indirect tax, accounting, and commercial law. So members can take up these topics with respect to various industries and try to do some research and submit to WRC, for which we have got all the support from Chitle sir and the ICI, and we propose that we would make this compilation of various industries and submit it to ICI so that they can come out with industry specific guidelines on the various matters relating to chartered accountants, which can be helpful for the industries as well as for the professionals. Friends, continuous learning through webinars is very important activity during these learning times to keep ourselves updated, and my compliments to Pune branch and the Hong Kong chapter of ICI to have hosted this webinar on the Finance Act 2020 with the specific provisions for NRIs. My thanks to CA Dr. Girish Ahuja ji for consenting and being present for this webinar. I wish you all a very, very happy learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Vishal bhai. Good morning, friends. This is first initiative by Pune branch to tie up with chapter from across India, like Hong Kong, and to tie up with the members from abroad, from Pune, and gain useful knowledge. I also compliment chairman of Hong Kong chapter and the office bearers who has joined. As far as the institute is concerned, institute until now we are saying that institute is the second largest body in the world of chartered accountants. But then should we be always contented in saying that we are the second largest body? can't we be the first largest body? So your council has resolved that let us within 4 or 5 years be the first largest body of chartered accountants in the globe. To this end, for the purpose of enhancing recognition of ICAI across the globe, ambitious program has been taken up. So within time of say till 2024, there should be at least 100 chapters abroad. It is possible that in some small cities there are only couple of chartered accountants, 2, 3 chartered accountants. So there they may find it difficult to have chapter. But the new regulation has been made that even 2, 3 persons can constitute themselves into a chapter and they can tie up with the institute. So maybe in days to come they will develop into a full-fledged chapter. So institute is doing substantial work for the purpose of working abroad. We also have plan of placing substantial number of chartered accountants in all the contingents in different regions. IFRS and various other things are tying up chartered accountants with countries abroad. Friends, more on this on some other occasion. Today, all of us are waiting for the presentation and words of wisdom from Girish Ahuja sir. Let me tell you that all members across the country and across the globe, whenever the name of Girish Ahuja comes up, they leave all their priorities behind and they are eager to take knowledge from Dr. Girish Ahuja sir. And he is also very kind. Whenever any branch of the institute, any forum of the institute invites Ahuja sir, he is sharing his wisdom, sharing his knowledge. And he is also on the committee which drafted this new direct tax code. It may come, it may not come, but this rich insight has also made government to take benefit of his scholastic abilities. With this, let me hand over the this proceedings back to Abhishek. Or before that, Anand, would you like to address, and then we should request Ahuja sir to talk. Anand, am I audible? Okay, it appears that another. Are you going to talk for a minute?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes. Yes, you are audible.
Yes, yes, Anand, you are audible.
I think Anand has lost the link, so maybe at the time of vote of thanks, we'll consider. Girish Ahuja sir, we would request you to start your.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Central Council member Chandrasekhar Chitaleji from, of course, Pune. The Vice Chairman of the WIRC, CA Vishal Doshi ji. Chairman of the Hong Kong branch, CA Hong Kong chapter rather, CA Anup Gidwani ji. Chairman of the Pune branch, CA Abhishek Damnai ji. And of course, I'm told the tax expert, Mr. Dinesh Garg from Hong Kong. And Anand Joketia ji, the past chairman. And my friends from Pune as well as Hong Kong. Let me tell you good morning to Pune people, and of course good afternoon to Hong Kong chapter, because there it is afternoon and here it is of course the morning, early morning at 11 o'clock. So okay, let me start with this. Let me tell you this time the bill section 6 regarding residential status, when it came, there was hue and cry. I remember I was giving a webinar same on day on 1st of February at Institute. And we got lot of queries and lot of queries from Dubai, maybe Kuwait and many other places. What kind of law this has been made. And I had to travel thereafter. I went to Dubai also. I went to Kuwait also, Oman also, and of course Doha also. Don't worry. I've not brought any COVID or something like that. There is nothing to worry about that. But of course, I went there, explained to them at that particular time also. There was there were not much of difficulties. But yes, with the Bahrain chapter, there was a problem. Board now have oversimplified the law. The law has become complicated. But the provisions, after listening to the provisions, it is a very simplified way of understanding. Let me explain to you what exactly is this. Let me tell you, we have Section 6 under Income Tax Act. Even you, even people who are Hong Kong, they're all Indian Chartered Accountants. They know that what was Section 6 subclause, Section 6 Clause 1. Individual is said to be resident in India if he has been in India for a period of periods 182 days or more in the relevant previous year. So if anyone, whether he is a foreigner or an Indian or a citizen, whoever, who stays in India for 182 days, he is a resident. There was a second condition, or in the 4 preceding previous year, 365 days, and in the relevant previous year, 60 days or more. This was the position under 6.1, which is there already. It is still there. But there was an explanation which was inserted for giving some concession to citizen of India or person of Indian origin. I'm not taking clause A. I'm taking clause B of the explanation. It said that in case of a citizen of India or a person of Indian origin who are outside India and makes a visit to India, the period of 60 days for condition number 2 shall be substituted by 182 days. This was the position existing. That means if you are a citizen of India, like people in Hong Kong, or you are a person of Indian origin, you are outside India, you make a visit to India, you can stay here in India for 181 days without being called resident. The moment you are here for 182 days, you are otherwise satisfying the first condition, you become a resident. What is the difference between a resident and non-resident? You all know that. If you are a resident in India, you have to pay tax on the global income. Not only income which is earned in India, but outside India also. It is a different thing that you get a relief or a tax credit of the tax which you have paid in the foreign country. Remember? But if you are a non-resident in India, you have to pay tax only on Indian income. That is income which accrue or which is received or deemed to be received in India, income which accrue or deemed to accrue or rise in India. You don't have to pay tax on income which accrue or rise outside. And secondly, the best advantage of non-resident is that if there is a treaty with that country, they get relief of taxation also. The rate is not that which is applicable in India. The rate also gets reduced for certain items like interest, dividend, like royalty, fee for technical services. They're all there. But let me tell you now, what is the change? Try to understand what is the change. That clause B, first part remains the same. Now they have extended the clause B by inserting some more items, some more words. See what is there in it. I repeat now clause B. First it will be same. In the case of a citizen of India or a person of Indian origin who is outside India, comes to India for a visit, the period of 60 days shall be substituted by 182 days. No change. Now, and in case of a citizen of India or a person of Indian origin whose total income, excluding the total income from foreign source, exceeds 15 lakh, the period of 60 days in his case shall be substituted by 120 days, meaning thereby that if you are a citizen of India or a person of Indian origin, your total income, please go to the word total income, but excluding income from foreign source. It is not foreign income, income from foreign source. What is income from foreign source? You don't have to take any foreign income except 2 foreign income you will have to take. You will have to include 2 income and exclude all other income from foreign source. Which 2 incomes? That income of a business. You are talking about individual, sole proprietary business, which is outside India but controlled from India, or income of a profession which is outside India but set up in India. These 2 will be included in your total income. Rest only Indian income. Income from foreign source means you don't have to include salary income or house property income, even the business income which is not controlled from India, or a professional income which is not set up in India. No other income, but 2 income to be included in total income. That is income from a business which is controlled from India, or income of a profession which is set up in India. Remember, if this total income exceeds 15 lakh, you can come and stay only for 119 days to be called a resident. If you have been here for 365 days or more in the 4 preceding previous year, only 119 days. The moment you are here for 120 days, you will be called resident in India. Resident in India. This is the first change which has taken place. I'll come back to this again also. Now, second change. They have inserted clause 1A under section 6. A new clause inserted. Let me tell you, this was inserted in the finance bill. But the government amendment which have been brought, you know what are government amendments? Let me first explain that. The bill was presented to the Lok Sabha in the Lok Sabha on 1st of February 2020. Now, at the time of passing the bill, the finance minister moves a certain amendment. Even the MP sitting there can also move amendment in that finance bill which was presented on 1st February. Once these amendments are moved, they are put into vote. And if they are passed in the parliament, they are incorporated in the finance bill. And that's why these are called government amendments. So these government amendments have been introduced, and section 6(1)(a), which was earlier in finance bill, has been amended. Let me first take what was there in the finance bill and what is now. Earlier 6(1)(a) was, in case of individual who is a citizen of India and who is not liable to pay tax in the foreign country or foreign territory by reason of his domicile, residence, or criteria of similar nature, he shall be deemed to be resident in India. Please note the word, he shall be deemed to be resident in India, new concept. We always thought of resident, now deemed to be resident in India. And when I traveled to Dubai and other places, they said, what have you done? Deemed to be resident, because we are in Dubai. One can be who is in Cayman Island or in Bermuda or Bahama, is a different thing. But we are in Dubai, working here. We are in Kuwait, we are in Oman, or maybe in other places. Now, what is happening is that we will be treated as deemed to be resident in India because we are citizen of India. Then I told them about treaty and all that. But now, when I came back here, I discussed a lot of things with the department. I'm very happy to tell you, they understood that problem and has changed now. Try to understand what is the change. New section 6(1)(a) are in the government amendment. What it says, please note, in case if an individual who is citizen of India having total income other than income from foreign source exceeding 15 lakh, he shall be deemed to be a resident in India if he is not liable to pay tax in the foreign country or foreign territory by reason of his residence or domicile or criteria of similar nature. What you have done now. Earlier, the money was the total income concept was not there. Now, what they have said, please, I have used the word that 15 lakh and 6B also, but that is different. This is different. Here, that 15(6) clause B explanation which I have used, there it is, we are paying tax outside India. Here it is that you are not liable to pay tax outside India by reason of your residence or domicile or criteria of similar nature. Now, what happens if your total income other than income from foreign source? Please note, I told you foreign source means all foreign income except two, which we'll have to include in total income. Income of a sole proprietary business outside India, but controlled from India. Income of a profession which is outside India, set up in India. If your total income is more than 15 lakh, you will be deemed to be resident in India. Even if you don't come for one day to India, even if you don't come for one day, you will be deemed to be resident in India if your total income, including Indian income plus those two income, exceeds 50 lakh. Even if you don't come to India at all, you will be deemed to be resident. Meaning thereby, if you are there, if your total income is less than 15 lakh, you can come to India for 181 days. No problem. If your total income is less than 15 lakh. But if your total income is more than 15 lakh, excluding income from foreign source, you will be deemed to be resident in India even if you don't come to India even for one day. But don't worry. They will not be called resident and ordinary resident. I'll be shortly telling you, they'll be called resident but not ordinary resident. So there is nothing to worry about it. Please try to understand. We have two types of resident. One is called resident and ordinarily resident, and the second is called resident but not ordinarily resident in India. When you are resident and ordinary resident, you have to pay tax on the global income. I told you, global income. But wait, when you are a resident but not ordinary resident, you have to pay tax only income which is received in India or deemed to be received in India, income which accrue or rise in India or deemed to accrue or rise in India, and please note, income from a business which is outside India but which is controlled from India. Or whose business? Sole proprietor business, because you're talking about an individual. Or income from a profession which is outside India but being set up in India. In that case, they have to pay tax only this income. Not ordinary people pay. What is the difference between non-resident and not ordinary resident? Please. Non-resident pay tax only on Indian income. Not ordinary resident pay tax on Indian income plus income from a business which is outside India but controlled from India, or income from a profession outside India but set up in India. But non-resident have some other benefit also of treaty benefit. I'll tell you of treaty benefit. I'll tell you about this also. This will also get benefit. What kind of a benefit they'll get, I'll explain. Now come back. We have, for a not ordinary resident, there was a condition that if you are a resident in India, you have to further determine ordinary or not ordinary. Not ordinary means that if you are a resident, but if you are non-resident in 9 out of 10 previous year, immediately preceding the relevant previous year, past 10 years, you were non-resident, then you will be called not ordinary resident, although you were resident. You are satisfied the condition of resident, but since for the 10 the past year, you were here for, you were non-resident for 9, no problem. Or in the past 7 years, you did not stay in India for more than 729 days. More than 729 days. Still, you will be called not ordinary resident. The benefit of not ordinary resident is they have to pay tax on Indian income, but all income of a business outside India, controlled from India, income of profession set up India, outside India, set up in India. Right? Now, this clause was already there. 729 days, 9 non-resident, 9 out of 10. Now wait, 6(1)(a), which I told you deemed resident, they have said all deemed resident will be considered as not ordinary resident. All deemed resident will be considered as not ordinary resident. For example, you are in Cayman Island, you are in Bahama, you are in Dubai, you are in Kuwait, you are in these countries. You don't pay tax there. But if your total income in India plus income from foreign source exceed rupees 15 lakh, then you will be called deemed resident, but deemed resident will be called not ordinarily resident. And once you are not ordinary resident, nothing to worry. Indian income, so you are already paying tax, no doubt, but to foreign income to be included, that income is income from a business outside India, controlled from India, income of a profession outside India, set up in India. Now wait, what is the next thing? I told you, if you are paying tax outside India, like Hong Kong, you are paying tax in Hong Kong, it is taxable there. If you are in Singapore, it is taxable there. If you are paying tax outside India, I told you are a citizen of India or a person of Indian origin, you make a visit to India, the period of 60 days now has been substituted by 120 days. That means the moment you are here for 120 days, you will become resident. Don't worry. Don't worry. If you are here for one non-resident, but if you are for 120 days, please note, you can stay up to 181 days. From 120 to 181 days, you will not be called resident, but you will be called not ordinarily resident. The moment you are here 120, you are resident. But now apply the condition of not ordinary resident. They have added one more clause that in case you are a citizen of India, person of Indian origin, paying tax outside India, because if you are not paying tax outside India, then you are deemed resident. Paying tax outside India, you come for a visit to India, you can stay here from 120 days to 181 days without being called a non-resident. You will be called not ordinary resident. You know why I'm saying that the moment you are here, then Indian income plus income from a foreign source, which is a business controlled from India, income of a person which is outside India, set up in India, that will be included. I am giving the example. Let's say Harish Salve, everyone knows. Harish Salve has a setup of profession of law in India, but he goes outside India, represented in many places. Now, this case, Harish Salve can come to India. If he doesn't come to India for more than 119 days, no, not more than 190 days, then Harish Salve becomes non-resident. He pays tax only on Indian income and also take the benefit of treaty. But wait, if the Harish Salve wants to come to India for 120 days to 181 days, let him not worry. He will have to pay tax on Indian income, but two more income. That is income, that profession, which is outside India, set up in India. He will have to pay tax on that. But don't worry, he can still take the benefit of treaty. Because why? What kind of a treaty benefit is? I'll tell you. Coming back. So these are the changes which have taken place. So I have taken this way. Resident, 182 days or 60 days. He can be ordinary or not ordinary. But deemed a resident, who's 50 lakh more and not paying tax outside India, he will always be not ordinary resident. Thirdly, you are outside India, paying tax there, your total income in India plus your two sources exceed 15 lakh. You will be called, if you are 119 days in India, non-resident. If you are here for 120 days to 181 days, you will be called not ordinarily resident. Now, coming back, what is the difference between resident and non-resident or resident and not ordinary resident? If you are a non-resident, you go to the treaty, and once you go to the treaty, whatever treaty you go, let's say we now have Hong Kong Treaty also. You know, recently, the Hong Kong Treaty has started only from 1st April 2019. Although we entered into this in the month of April, and it was notified on 21st December 2018. April 2018, we entered the agreement, and it was notified on 21st of December 2018, but made effective for income which is earned in India from 1st April 2019 onwards. You know, in our country, we call a fiscal year, that is a financial year. In Hong Kong, Hong Kong is what? Hong Kong Special Administrative Region. Hong Kong is under China, but it has got separate special category. So they have entered into us. You know, when you enter into with the state, we call contracting state. One contracting state with another contracting state. But Hong Kong is not a state. Hong Kong is a special administrative region of Republic of China. In their case, we will say contracting party. The contracting party of the Hong Kong will be authorized person. Who is the authorized person? Commissioner of Internal Revenue in Hong Kong. And India, who is the authorized? We are entering with two territories, not two states, two territories. In India, Finance Minister and his authorized representative. These are the person who have entered into a treaty. But we are not using the word contracting state. We are using the word contracting party. In Hong Kong, we call it year of assessment. In India, we call it fiscal year. Hong Kong year of assessment is you are there. It starts from a period of 12 months, which starts from 1st April. In our case, we start from April and we end in the next financial year, next fiscal year, which is 31st March, almost say. Now, what I'm trying to explain now, we have entered into a treaty with Hong Kong. Earlier, it was not there. We have entered into a treaty with Singapore. We have treated with many countries. If you are a non-resident, even in Hong Kong, you are a non-resident, you don't come to India for more than 119 days. then your treaty benefit you will take. And treaty benefit, because you are a non-resident, you will be mostly taxable in that country, but you will also be taxed on income which accrue or arise in India on source basis, but at a concessional rate at certain time. But now wait a minute. If you are a resident but not ordinary resident of India, you are a resident. And suppose you are also a resident of Hong Kong or Singapore or UK or US, then what happens? There is resident of two countries. It is not possible. If you are resident of two countries, how will you apply the treaty? You remember, we played a 2020 with New Zealand, and there were two matches which were tied, and we applied the tiebreaker rule. The tiebreaker rule in the 2020 match was play a super over. Whoever scores the most will win. If again it is the same score, then again tiebreaker. Here also, with all treaties, if you are a resident of two countries, you have to decide which you are resident of which country. Tiebreaker rule to be applied. In Hong Kong, if you ordinarily reside in Hong Kong, you are resident of Hong Kong. If you ordinarily reside. But if you don't ordinarily reside in Hong Kong, then if you stay in Hong Kong in the year of assessment, that is 12 months period, year of assessment for 180 days or more, you are resident of Hong Kong. Wait, if they are less than 180 days, then in the 2 consecutive year, including the year of assessment, if you are there for 300 days or more, you are called a resident of Hong Kong. Let's say you are resident of Hong Kong and you are deemed a resident of India, but no, you can't take deemed resident because you are paying tax there. You come to India for 120 days and your income in India is more than 15 lakh. You come to India, your income in India is more than 15 lakh, including 2 foreign source, and you come to India and stay here for 120 days to 181 days. You also resident. You are resident but not earning, but you are resident of 2 countries, Hong Kong, India. Then what will you do? You will apply the tiebreaker rule. What is the tiebreaker rule? Number 1, in a tiebreaker rule, they say you will be a resident of that country where you have a permanent home. If you have a permanent home in Hong Kong, you will be a resident of Hong Kong. If you have a permanent home in India, then you will be a resident. But if you would have permanent home in both the countries, then they say where you have personal and economic interest, your vital interest. And let me tell you, those Indians who are working there, they may be earning a lot of money there, but they have invested that money in India. And their vital interest may be in India. It's a different thing. You are putting in non-resident external account, that will also be taken as an amount. May not be income, but an amount. Or you have houses in India, you have more vital interest in India. The moment you have a vital interest in India, then you will be called resident of India. If you have a vital interest there, then you will be called resident of Hong Kong. But most of you may be having vital interest, vital economic interest in India. But when it cannot be determined, then we go to habitual abode. I don't want to go into details of that. That is a cumbersome thing, but you have to apply the tiebreaker rule if you are staying in Hong Kong and you are a citizen of India. You are resident of India. Resident, I told you, resident 182 days, or you are total income in India for more than 15 lakh and you come to India for 120 days to 181 days. Then what will happen? You will have to pay tax on Indian income plus income from foreign source, which is controlled from India, a business or a profession which is set up in India. You may get the relief there in tax credit, but you will have to pay tax on this also. And wait. Since you are a resident of this country, then the benefit of that non-resident, concessional rate is not available. Let me tell you why they have done it. Now, with effect from 1st April 2020, dividend is going to be taxed, dividend declared by the domestic company is going to be taxed in the hands of the recipient. Now, recipient, you have invested money into shares in India. You get dividend. Earlier, it was exempt. because the companies are paying dividend distribution tax approximately at the rate of 21%. And whatever you received was exempt, provided it did not exceed 10 lakh. But if it exceeded 10 lakh, dividend was exempt, but on the amount exceeding 10 lakh, you were paying a tax of 10% under section 115 BBDA. Now, what has happened? Now, dividend is going to be taxed in your hand. Once the dividend is taxed in your hand, you will apply the treaty. When you apply the treaty, if you are a resident of Hong Kong, then in that case, dividend of India will be taxable in India only as per the treaty. And the treaty says in case of dividend, there is a Article 10 in the case of dividend, which says dividend will be taxable in India only at the rate of 5%. In some countries, it is if you have a treaty with other countries, it is 10% also. But the treaty benefit is given to non-resident because you are not a resident of India. It will be taxable at 10% or 5% in case of Hong Kong. But moment you are a resident in India, maybe deemed resident, and you apply the tiebreaker rule, and if the tiebreaker rule you become resident of India, in that case, the treaty benefit will not be given to you, and you will have to pay tax at the rate whatever is applicable to you, and the rate applicable may be to you if it is income is more than 15 lakh, 30%, or even if you go to old scheme 10 lakh, 30% plus surcharge. Surcharge depends on 50 lakh and above, 1 crore and above, 2 crore and above, 5 crore and above. You will have to pay surcharge plus health and education cess. So dividend in case of a person who is outside India or even or deemed resident, even if there is a deemed resident, there also treaty will be applied. Let's say Dubai, you are a deemed resident because Dubai, you have an income in India more than 15 lakh, you are in Dubai. But if you are a resident of Dubai, in Dubai the rule is 183 days. You are a resident of Dubai, you are a resident of India, deemed resident of India. Again, you will have to apply the treaty. We do have a treaty with UAE, but in that case also treaty, if you are a resident of Dubai, after tiebreaker rule, you will be liable to pay tax on dividend in India at the rate of 10%. But if you become a resident of India due to tiebreaker rule, you will be liable to pay tax on the dividend, the amount. Why they have done it? Let me tell you. Many Indians have settled abroad and they are declaring themselves to be non-resident. Some people have taken money by good means or by wrong means, I would not like to say. Because if you are a non-resident, you could take by fair mean $10 lakh, $1 million every year to country outside India from India for normal your declared source. If you are a resident and you are going to you plan to go out later and you could remit $250,000 every year under the liberalized scheme. Many people have taken away the money by money laundering, black money, this, that. And these black money people, those who have gone, they have become non-resident. You know, once you are a non-resident, you do not have to file the declare. You don't have to declare this what you call foreign source, assets in foreign, income in foreign country. Because in our country, when you file a return of income, if you are a resident and you have some foreign income or asset in foreign country, you have to declare that asset, you have to declare that income in your return, although taxable or not. But you have to declare. If you are a resident of India, you have to declare. So they want to become non-resident so that they may not have to declare their foreign asset. If it is declared money, it's a different thing. But if it is not a declared money, black money, they will be caught. So they don't want to, because we have now Black Money Act also. And Black money also is very, 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 I tell you, a lot of hardship is there. Once it is proved that you have a black money or you have an asset outside India, you have not declared, you are liable to imprisonment of 10 years. So people wanted to go abroad. Okay. If they want to go abroad, let them go. We have given one concession. Resident but not ordinary resident will not have to declare their foreign asset or foreign income. But once you are resident and ordinary resident, you will have to declare the foreign. Now you have to decide. But if you are a not ordinary resident, we will try to see the treaty. And if the treaty you become by tiebreaker rule resident in India, you pay dividend tax at the normal rate applicable in India. But if you don't apply the treaty, if you are resident of Hong Kong or maybe other countries, then in that case, the dividend to be taxed in India shall be at a concessional rate, which with the Hong Kong it is 5%, maybe for others it is 10%. So that is the point which I wanted to tell you about Section 66 and treaty. We have treaty with Hong Kong, and they are on similar lines with we have treaty with other countries also. Because if you are a non-resident, income from royalty will be taxable at a special rate of 10%, whatever you have earned in India. If you are an interest income, if it is a treaty, it is taxable at 10%. If it is not a treaty, you are a non-resident, it is taxable in India at the rate of 20%, or maybe in some cases normal rate also. So treaty benefit is given to non-resident, or treaty benefit given to if you are a resident of two countries, you by tiebreaker rule, you become non-resident of that country, and you don't. So you become resident of that country, and you become non-resident of our country. But if you become resident of this country, the treaty benefit will not be available to you of that nature. It is a different thing that in foreign country, whatever tax you have paid will be, if that is included in their income, will be taxed at will be given credit to you. So this is the treaty we have with Hong Kong, which has been made effective from 1st April 2019. That is the first year which has expired. But wait a minute. This is for specifically, I was talking about the people in Hong Kong and people outside the country. I'm coming back. Now you know that people in Hong Kong also, you have an Indian income. At what rate that income is taxable? Under individual I'm talking about. Individual slab rate, existing slab rate was on 2,50,000 nil, on next 2,50,000 10%, on next 5 lakh 20%, about 10 lakh 30%. For non-resident, there was no relief under 87A, where it was exempt up to 5 lakh. It was only for resident. The relief was there under 87A, that you don't have to pay tax on the total income if it does not exceed 5 lakh. For non-resident, it was not there. For non-resident, even senior citizen, they were not given benefit of that 3 lakh. Now, what has happened? There is an alternative given to you now. Even non-resident or resident, they can switch over to new regime. New section inserted, section 115 BAC. An individual can pay tax on the total income like this if certain conditions are satisfied. What is total income? I told you income, it depends whether you have to include foreign or not. It depends upon your residential status, not ordinary or non-resident or ordinary. If you are having income here, please note, new regime, first 2,50,000. Now that concept of senior citizen, very senior citizen gone, but that concept was not there for non-resident, but that was there for resident, but that also gone. If you want to go to new regime, first 2,50,000 tax is nil. Next 2,50,000, the tax is 5%. Next 2,50,000, the tax is 10%. Next 2,50,000, the tax is 15%. Next 2,50,000, 20%. Next 2,50,000, 25%. This amounts to 15 lakh. Above 15 lakh, it is 30%. Plus surcharge if it is more than 50 lakh or crore or 2 crore or 5 crore. Plus health and education says 4%. So Hong Kong people who are earning income in India, having to pay tax in India, this is the slab rate which is applicable for individual. This is a slab rate which is applicable unless there is a special rate to be applied. I told you about this. Now this is the slab rate which is applicable. So you can take the benefit of this 80 days. But wait, you were getting certain benefit of certain investment in India. It was not PPF, but other benefit. You are getting some benefit if you got yourself insured in India for 80D. You are getting some benefit of donation to ATG. You can make a donation and get a deduction, the benefit in India. The question came up that this was available till 31st March. 31st March is over. Now there is a disaster. What they have done, they have brought an ordinance. In the ordinance, they have said, look here, if you have not been able to deposit this money by 31st March, or you have not been able to pay your health insurance, or you have not given donation, still there is a time. We have extended 31st March to 30th June due to the recent disaster. 30th June. So if you have not been able to take the benefit of 1,50,000, which is available under ATC, whether you are resident or non-resident. I know that PPF benefit you cannot take if you are a non-resident, but if you have to take that benefit, mind it, you can still take the benefit of this next year by making the payment of 30th June. And specifically say that you will take it in the benefit in 1920. Rather, I will request you, all of you in Hong Kong particularly, if you have income in India or no income in India, kindly donate to Prime Minister Care Fund. Kindly donate if you can afford to Prime Minister Care Fund, and you will be getting deduction under ATG. Even if you are in old or new scheme. In new scheme, ATG is not allowed. But if you donate up to 30th June, it will be in the old scheme. You can go in the past year. But if current year, if you are going to new scheme, ATG is not available. But if you make a payment of 30th June of donation to Prime Minister Care Fund or Prime Minister Relief Fund, you will get 100% deduction. There is no limit of 10% also, where was aggregate limit was 10% of the total income. No. You donate this money to this country, Prime Minister Care Fund, and claim this deduction of the previous year 1920 income, where you have to pay tax. You will, if you have already paid tax more, you will get a refund. You pay tax, you will get deduction last year if you are old scheme. If you want to come to the old scheme in the new year also, then ATG is allowed. But if you want to come to old scheme in the what you call in the new year, new scheme, then ATG is not allowed. But if you donate up to 30th June, you can take this benefit in the last year, 1920, 100% the amount so donated. So that benefit you can always take. Rather, I will request all of us, who are in Pune and others, and who are online, please donate as much as you can to Prime Minister Care Fund. 100% deduction. Please, let me tell you, you can donate out of CSR also. CSR amount can also be donated Prime Minister Care Fund. Earlier, only CSR amount could be donated to Prime Minister Relief Fund. But now the amendment has been made, CSR amount can be donated to Prime Minister Care Fund. If you donate up to 30th June and you want to take a benefit in 1920, you will be allowed 100% of the amount donated. Even those companies, you know that, I've already told you that in India, the new company, the company can opt to go for tax at rate of 22% instead of 30% or 25% under section 115 BAA. In that case, the rate of income tax is 20%, provided certain conditions are satisfied. On those conditions, the exemptions and deductions have been withdrawn. Even deduction of Chapter 6A, that has been withdrawn. But you can pay 22% plus surcharge 10% plus health and education at 4%. And if you start a company, which you have already done it, on or after 1st of October 2019, and you produce an article or a thing, or generate electricity, and certain conditions are satisfied, your tax rate rather will be 15% plus surcharge 10% plus health and education says 4%. So new companies incorporated after 1st October 2019 in India, and they buy plant and machinery new, 20% can be old, and they will be given a tax benefit of tax to be liability of 15% plus surcharge plus education cess. Mind it, they will not be given any reduction under Chapter 6A or any other. There are many other reductions which they will be not allowed or exemption. But wait, they have given a concession to them also. Those who are in 22 bracket or 15. If they donate to Prime Minister Care Fund or any other fund up to 30th June, they can take the benefit last year. They can waive the benefit last year, which was withdrawn, but they have given you. But yes, if you donate after 1st April 2020 and you want to claim deduction in 2021, not allowed if you are paying tax at 22% or 15%. But if you donate between April to June, take the benefit last year, you will be given, still you will be taxable if you satisfy the condition 22% or 15% as the case may be. This is a big benefit which has been given. I'm keeping myself, restricting myself to the non-resident also. So let me tell you one thing. We wanted to tax the e-commerce operator who are outside India. But it's another thing has come. They have taxed the e-commerce participant, those who are making payment to e-commerce operator, and TDS has to be deducted in that case at the rate of 1% under section 194O. E-commerce operators are in India. We have a lot of e-commerce operators in India. Zomato, Swiggy, OA, or Ola, or Uber, or Indian Amazon, Flipkart. So many e-commerce operators are there. While making payment to e-commerce participant supply goods on behalf of e-commerce operator. E-commerce operator only provide platform. They don't supply goods. Goods are supplied by somebody else. They are called e-commerce participant. Now at the time of, but payment is made to e-commerce operator. Now under 194 in India, what has happened is, if you make a payment to e-commerce operator, e-commerce operator makes a payment to e-commerce participant, at the time of making the payment, they will deduct the TDS at the rate of 1%. But it is effective from 1st of October. Earlier it was 1st April. Now it has been made effective from 1st of October 2020. But wait. But if the e-commerce operator is sitting outside, now amendment has been made in the chapter on equalization levy. You remember, equalization levy was introduced. India was the first country to introduce equalization levy at the rate of 6% on the advertisement which you have made outside India. 6% equalization TDS was to be deducted at the time making payment to the non-resident for advertisement outside India. And if you don't deduct TDS, then if you pay TDS from your own pocket, then it was grossing up was done, and it was done like that. Wait a minute. This equalization was only on advertisement. But from 1st April 2021, they are introducing now equalization levy on e-commerce operators outside India. Meaning thereby, if you have the payment to e-commerce operator outside India, the limit is the same 1 lakh. If it exceeds 1 lakh, you will have to deduct 6% of any goods or services provided by e-commerce operator outside India here on or after 1st April 2021 at the rate of 6%. Deduct while making payment. If you don't deduct, or if they don't accept, he said, no, we are going to charge you the full amount, then you will have to gross up and pay the tax of 6% by grossing up from your pocket. This is also the change which has been brought in the government amendment. There are many other changes which have been brought in government amendment. I know that, but those may not be relevant. But still, I will some which are relevant even for Hong Kong people, or maybe for Pune also. But let me tell you, because Hong Kong people may be having some interest in India, we have a charitable trust. I told you, all charitable trusts, whether in 1023 or 1112, will have to apply once again by 31st August for fresh registration or approval. And I also told you, now the approval at the 1023C or registration the 12AA, you cannot take both, approval also and registration. Now you will only apply either the 1023C for approval. 1023 is applicable for educational institution, universities, or hospitals and medical institution, or under 12AA, you can apply either of the two, not both. But the disadvantage under 1023C was, if an institution under 1023C received a corpus donation, it was not exempt. You had to apply 85% to claim full exemption of corpus donation. But if you were registered under 12AA, corpus donation was exempt under 11(1)(d). You don't have to, you need not apply that. Now, they have inserted explanation under 1023C stating that the corpus donation will also be exempt under section 1023C. So, if a college or a university or hospital or educational institution or medical institution gets a donation with a specific direction that it will form part of the corpus of the trust from 1st April, whatever received, it will be exempt. There is need not apply that. If they want to apply, nobody stops. Need not apply. They will be exempt for that. That is a point which I wanted to tell you, which was really important. And then one more, very important. I appreciated those days when I came to Pune, Mr. Modi, our Prime Minister, of coming out with a section called 1023FE. What was section 1023FE at that time, and what is section 1023FE after making government amendment? Earlier, when bill was presented, section 1023FE said, look here. They said any income of a specified entity shall be exempt if certain conditions are satisfied. System was that we told that there is an Abu Dhabi Investment Authority in Abu Dhabi, those who make investment in various countries. And we have, let me tell you, sovereign wealth fund in all foreign countries. They also invest in foreign countries to earn income. So we at that time told that, look here, Abu Dhabi Investment Authority or sovereign wealth fund of the foreign country, please come to India, invest in India, satisfy certain condition. And if you give us loan, the interest which you receive on that will be exempt. And if you give us equity, the dividend which you will receive on that equity or the capital gain when you get after transfer of that equity shall be exempt. But we gave exemption to two types of institution. One was Abu Dhabi Investment Authority and second was sovereign wealth fund of the foreign countries. One more added. Pension fund which is outside in a foreign country, where in foreign country it is exempt. Those pension fund also invest other countries to earn income. They said, please invest in India. So now three institutions can invest. One is Abu Dhabi Investment Authority, second is Sovereign Wealth Fund, and third is Pension Fund of foreign country. Now they had to invest either in debt, I told you, interest exempt, or in equity. Then they suddenly realized the word used is equity. What about units? So they have changed the word. They invest in share capital or units will give you exemption of interest, or income from dividend, or that dividend income or the interest of unit plus capital gain from unit or capital gain from share. Third thing, there were three conditions to be satisfied. First condition was that you should make an investment on or after 1st April 2020, but on or before 31st March 2024. Second was the investment, for that investment, the lock-in period will be 3 years. And the third, which was given on 1st of February, was that you can invest only in domestic company or an entity which is engaged in the business of development or operation or maintenance of any infrastructure facility in India, or certain other which may be notified by the government. But now they have changed this also. These three institutions can now invest, number one, in business trust in India. We have two kinds of business trust in India. One is called real estate investment trust. The another is called infrastructure investment trust. You can invest there. Or you invest domestic company or any other entity which are engaged in the business of development, operating or maintaining of infrastructure facility or any other which may notify. But they have added third more also. These entities can invest where we have in India alternative investment fund of category 1 and alternative investment fund of category 2. They can invest in this alternative investment fund. But these alternative investment fund will have to invest this 100% of this amount in either one or more than one undertaking which is in the business of developing or operating or maintaining infrastructure. This is the amendment under 1023 FE which has been made by the government to attract more money in India. These days is a different thing, but gradually things will come and a lot of things will be able to come. Now another point. Let me tell you, there may be many non-resident or maybe resident. They did not file return due on due date, which was there under 139(1). They were allowed to file belated return, but belated return was supposed to be filed by 31st March. For previous year 18-19, belated return was supposed to be filed by 31st March 2020, but that is over. Second point, you had filed a return, but there was some omission or a wrongful statement in return submitted by you. You wanted to revise that return. The last date for revision was, I told you, 31st March. But now the revised return or belated return of assessment year 1920, previous year 1890 can be furnished by 30th June. Absolutely no problem. 3 months has been extended. That benefit also you can take. Or you know that Vivad se Vishwas thing, a wonderful thing had come, a very good scheme which had come, that you pay only tax. You will not be liable to pay any penalty or interest if there is any case pending. And they have been told also if you have won the case and department lost the case, you can give for 50%. For such cases, 125%. I remember, you know that. For interest and our penalty also. But now you remember, after 31st March, it was 10% extra. But wait, with the ordinance they have said, please wait, that you can deposit this money. You can go for this Vivad se Vishwas scheme up to 30th June. You don't have to pay 10% extra. Up to 30th June, pay that 100% or 125% or 50% or 25%. You all know that as the case may be, up to 30th June. But another point, if you are not able to make the payment up to 30th June, you can make the payment even after 30th June, from 1st July onwards. Up to which date, they will specify. Most probably it will be 30th September, but let us wait. But in that case, if you go for Vivad se Vishwas scheme, you have to pay 10% extra, as which was payable after 31st March. Now it is payable after 30th June. This is also a change. Maybe the Hong Kong people may not having any kind of this problem in India, but they may be having subsidiary here. They may be having any company here which is under Vivad. They can go to Vivad se Vishwas scheme also. There is absolutely no problem. Coming back, you have to deduct TDS. For month of March, the TDS is supposed to be deducted by 30th April and deposited by 30th April. Deducted by 31st March, but supposed to be deposited by 30th April. For the month of April, it is supposed to be deposited by 5th of May. For the month of May, it is supposed to be deposited by 5th of June. They have not given any concession. They have only given one thing, that if you deposit after the due date, earlier the rate of interest was 1% per month or 1.5% per month. In some other cases, because of some tax due, it was 12% per annum or 18% per annum. If you deposit the TDS or TCS after due date, that is for March, 30th April is the due date, you deposit after for 30th April. For the month of April, 7th May will be the due date, you deposit after 7th May. For the month of May, 7th June will be due date, but if you deposit after 7th June, you will have to pay interest. But the rate will be less. Instead of 1 or 1.5, it will be 0.75% per annum or per month or part of the month. 0.75% per month or part of the month. Or wherever it is a yearly rate, instead of 12% or 18%, the rate will be 9%. Please note, no concession. The only concession is the interest rate has been reduced. Although for other formalities, I told you, other formalities like the formalities of, you have to file any reply, you have to file any return, you have to file any document with the authorities, whether it is under income tax, under wealth tax, under Benami Act, under Black Money Act, under CTT law, under commodity transaction tax, under STT law, under Vivad Se Vishwas, or under equalization levy. If you have to file any return, if you have to file any appeal, if you have to file any reply, if you have to file any document, if you have to file any other thing which was due between 20th March and 29th June, due between this date, you can file till 30th June. You can file till 30th June. Please, the date has been extended for filing an appeal, for furnishing a return, for furnishing a report, for furnishing any reply, for furnishing any document, for furnishing any application, which was due between 20th March to 29th June, extended 30th June. But this benefit has been given to the department also. Which department? Not only income tax, wealth tax, income tax, Benami, Black Money Act, CTT, STT, Vivad Se Vishwas, even equalization levy. If there was a completion of any proceeding, or there was a passing of an order, supposed to be a passing of an order, or giving a sanction or any approval, which was supposed to be given between 20th March and 30th June, you had to complete any proceeding. 148 notice for reassessment. Last date was 30th March. It is after 20th March. Department can send it up to 30th June. Under wealth tax, reassessment under 17. Last date was 31st March. For past 4 years or 6 years, they can do it up to 30th June. Or for passing an order, they can do it up to 30th June, which was due between 20th to 29th March. Or for giving any sanction, or giving any approval, all dates have been extended which were due between 20th March to 9th June to 30th June. This is the benefit which has also been given to you. Another benefit which has been given under capital gain. If you have sold any residential house property, you know that you had to acquire the house property within a period of 2 years for purchase of, from the date of transfer, or if you want to construct within a period of 3 years from the date of transfer. Note here, if the 2 year or 3 year are expiring between 20th March and 29th June, then this period has been extended to 30th June. Now, agricultural land, 54B, you sell an agricultural land, buy another agricultural land within a period of 2 years. If the 2-year period is expiring between 20th March and 29th June, you can do it up to 30th June. You know 54EC, sell any land or building in India, sell any land or building, and capital gain, invest 50 lakh within a period of 6 months in rural infrastructure bond or in what you call National Highway Authority bond. The period is 6 months from the date of transfer. If that 6-month period is expiring between 20th March and 29th June, it has been extended to 30th June. So it is not only for 54, it is also for 54B, 54D, 54EC, 54F, 54G. Sorry for Hong Kong, they may not be interested in G, GA, GB, but I can't help it because the Pune people are also sitting there. They should also know what kind of a change has taken place. Those who are resident, you could deposit in PPF, which you have not deposited up to 31st March. You wanted to take a relief under ATC, you could deposit at the 30th June. A query was raised to me. Look here, the next year, the PPF Act, under PPF Act, they don't accept more than 1,50,000 in a year. Now, if I deposit last year 1,50,000 now, and of the current year also 1,50,000, they will not accept it. Don't worry. 12th April, last day, yesterday, already office memorandum has come. They have been instructed that those give an undertaking that they are depositing on account of last year, take that money, they'll get the benefit last year. But they can also pay the money for the current year. So there is no limit of 1,50,000. Last year 150 you can deposit. Today, if you have not deposited, plus 1,50,000 you can deposit if you have not deposited. But wait here. If you are taking benefit of ATC of the last year, that is extended. Otherwise, it is not extended. So last year, if you have not taken the benefit, you can deposit in PPF this year, but separate for last year, but deposit this year, and separate for this year, you can get a deduction. This office memorandum has come only yesterday. That benefit should also be taken by you. I'm again telling you that the 206C1G liberalized scheme where you could remit any 2,50,000 resident, non-resident can take it $1 million. For that, this is not called a liberalized remittance scheme. For resident, it is called a liberalized remittance scheme where they can remit $250,000 every year to a country outside India. No approval required from Reserve Bank. Remember, Section 206C1G was introduced saying that you will have to, the authorized dealer will have to collect TCS at the rate of 5%. And then there was a second also, tour package operator. If you go to any foreign country and you take a tour package, so in that case also 5%. Now, first thing, this was made applicable from 1st April 2020. Now it has been shifted to 1st of October 2020. Yeah, this is the change in the government amendment 2020. Look here, one more thing. Now I came to Pune. I told you those people who want to go take a loan for education of their children. They want to send their money abroad. Now 5% will have to be collected by the authorized dealer. They don't have money. They have borrowed the money to educate their children, and that's 5%. The extra burden will be there. Although you will get credit for that, but you have to arrange the funds. I could persuade them only for education, not for medical. Now what has happened? First thing, now it is applicable from 1st October. So any remittance made between 1st of April to 30th September, not subject to TCS. But any remittance made on or after 110, including the remittance made from 1st September to 30th September, if that exceeds 7 lakh, if it exceeds 7 lakh, by computing 7 lakh, aggregate in a year you have to take. Whatever from 1st to 30th, no TDS was TCS was collected, include that amount plus now any amount carrying her. You will collect, the authorized dealer will collect 5% of the amount exceeding 7 lakh. But if 7 lakh has already exceeded per year, then whatever they remit now, that will be 5%, not up to 30th September. But wait, if you have taken an education loan from an approved financial institution, which is given in ATE, then on education loan, you are making a remittance to outside India. The amount of TCS will not be 5%. It will be 0.5%. 0.5%. This is the benefit we have given. But tour package, 1st to 30th, no TCS. But from 1st October, TCS 5% without any limit. Actually, I will have to stop here because I have another program at 1 o'clock and I am expecting some questions. So therefore, now I'm handovering. Please take over. If there are questions, they can ask me those questions. Because I have other engagement at 1 o'clock. Please. Please, you can ask questions, whoever want to ask. In front of me, there is Abhishek. Chandrasekhar is also there. Sarveshji is also there. Sarvesh is also there. Kashinath Pradare is also there. Now, any question you can ask, please.
Sir, if there is
50 minutes I can give. Boliye. Tell me, come.
Sir, Sarvesh,
हाँ जी, बोलिए, please tell me.
sir, if there is a forced stay on account of COVID, what happens? Can he take
Force majeure.
a forced stay? Yeah.
Force majeure clause, na? They have
Yes.
inserted force majeure clause, but they have already given the benefit in ordinance, but they have already included in the ordinance that we can extend it beyond 30th June also. You can extend it beyond 30th June. You know, whenever, why ordinance? Parliament is not sitting. When the Parliament doesn't sit, you can't bring any law because you have to move the amendment bill. They have brought ordinance. The ordinance is supposed to be passed. This is the rule within 6 months of after the Parliament sits. Within 6 weeks. The system is either the ordinance will be passed or ordinance will be converted into bill, and it is supposed to be passed by the Parliament within 6 months once it sits. So this is the law. They have brought the ordinance, but they have taken the power in the ordinance also to extend it even beyond 30th June if the need arises. Even during the 20th March to 29th June, for that the power is also being taken. So wait and watch what is going to happen. And force majeure, otherwise advisory is there for salary, advisory is there for, I told you, for rent and all that. They can't make it law, but advisory is there. But it will be better employees if they give them to them. My dear, they are really poor people, and if we don't pay salary to them, how will they manage it? So pay them.
Even is there an advisory for residential status also?
No. What is the deed of that? So far not there. So far not there. Period of stay. You want to say period of stay because
Period
by 4
of
they have been able to stay here. Sir, this is the new year. 1st April is a separate year. So wait and watch. It is only 10 days. That was only 10 days between lockdown from 21st March to the Pride Week. Only for that period, maybe force majeure they may do it. But at this stage, is a new year started. Wait and watch. That is possible. Tell me other question, please.
Thank you, sir.
So what happens if I end up being a non-resident in any country and there is no treaty benefits as well?
There is no treaty there. If we have entered into, if we are a non-resident of a country where there is no treaty, we have treaty with 96 countries. We have treaty. If there is no treaty, you will be liable to pay tax in India, but you will not get the benefit of that in foreign country as a tax credit. And we will tax you. We will not get the tax credit there. That's all. Because you are a non-resident, you have to pay tax on income which is received in India, deemed to be received in India, income which accrue or rise in India, deemed to accrue or rise in India. And if you are not ordinary resident, you will have to pay tax also on income of a business which is set up in, controlled in India, income of a profession which is set up in India. That's all. That's all. Treaty benefit is in your favor. If it is there, you take it. If it's not there, then no question.
Thank you.
And any other question?
Chitle sahab, your.
हाँ बोलिए चित्रे साहब.
Chitle sahab, mute.
आप unmute करो. Please unmute it.
Sir, I am requesting.
Yeah, okay. Tell me.
I am requesting Hong Kong people to ask queries. They will get.
I can't hear you. Some problem.
I would request Dinesh Bhai and Anup Bhai
I can't hear you.
I am requesting Hong Kong chapter people to ask more queries.
There is no audio. I can see him, but there is no audio.
Okay, from our perspective, I think Girish sir himself explaining is extremely crystal clear. I would open the dice if any of the Hong Kong members are open to ask questions.
Dinesh is there. Very good. Welcome. I have to learn many things.
नहीं sir, आप जैसे
anything of the Hong Kong tax. Hong Kong tax, I don't know much, but I have explained whatever I could do by reading the treaty. The treaty is only a recent one. It is from 1st April. And it is, of course, with the, this is with the party. Please, it is not with the state, because the Hong Kong is not a separate state. We call it as Hong Kong Special Authority Region. Am I right? Administrative region.
Yes.
That's all. That's the point. Tell me now, any question from Hong Kong?
Anupji, anything from your side? or we hand it over to Pune branch?
Chairman sir, tell me, Hong Kong chairman, let me listen from, get the question from him. Again, some mute. They don't unmute it before they speak.
Ahuja,
Yes,
sir,
sir.
You made it extremely clear for us. The issues that were being discussed were in relation to dividend taxation or dividend, and of course the application of the DTA, which has recently came into being. At the very outset of your presentation, that was one of the first things you addressed. So actually, you have addressed the pressing topic as far as Hong Kong members are concerned. Thank you for that.
Let me tell you one thing, please. Even if you have any other problem, tell your members to give me to make a query on my email. I give you the email address also. Please, you can note down. Always welcome for query, but give your phone number also. If it is on your WhatsApp, I'll talk to you on WhatsApp. I'm not in the habit of replying on the email. I always talk, because if I reply on email, then they again start asking questions, and the question will never end up. After one third, I will answer their query there and then. My email address is, please ID dr. Dr is doctor. dr.girishahuja@gmail.com. Very simple. dr.girishahuja. You must have seen my spelling there already.
Yes,
there.
of course.
At the rate gmail.com. Send your queries. I will answer whenever I get free, because today I have 1 o'clock meeting. I have a 3 o'clock meeting. I have a 4:30 meeting also. I was traveling, blended bread of the country and abroad also. But now, sitting at home, I'm addressing more than what I used to address while traveling, because you could take 1 day for traveling for 2 hours lecture. Here, in 1 day, I'm doing 4. So this is an opportunity for me. There may be many challenges for you, but it is an opportunity for me sitting at home delivering 4 lectures. The only thing which I miss, I used to say to Mr. Chitale that you have become Central Council member, or even Anand or ye, they fight election, they contest election, and you are. Why do they get abuses? उनको गालियां मिलती हैं, और मैं भी पैशन है, लेकिन मुझे तालियां खाने का शौक था. अब प्रॉब्लम ये है, तालियां आवाज नहीं आएगी, पर इतना फर्क है, बाकी कोई फर्क नहीं है. I love, it is my passion to deliver lecture. So most welcome. Send your query, I'll reply, but most probably on WhatsApp.
Thank you, sir.
Any other query, please? I have still 10-15 minutes. Don't worry. You can ask.
Pune chapter, you want to pick up questions from the chat?
There are questions from the chat. Somebody administrator should do that.
Yeah.
Admin, please look at the question and ask me. Kashinath Pathare, Kashinath ji, any question?
No, sir.
Any question, Anand ji? Anand ji, who is the person who is looking to the chat? If the questions are from chat, please ask. We have the vice chairman also, Samir Ladda, in front of me.
मैं chat.
हाँ बोलिए बंद होगी आपकी आवाज. दिनेश जी, I can't hear you. हाँ आप बोलिए. You are on mute है. Please unmute yourself.
हाँ, can you hear me now?
Yes. हाँ, yeah, I can hear you.
Sharat Shah, if a non-resident sells his house in India, capital gain exceeding 15 lakh, whether TDS under section 195 or under 194 IA.
Any income which is in India and you are a non-resident, TDS is to be deducted under 195. 195. Unless there is a special section, it will not be under Indian sections. Only there is one section for 95 for payment made to a non-resident outside India. So TDS will be at that rate, and for capital gain it will be 20% plus some amount surcharge applicable.
Sure. Next question, Kaustup Mohta. If you could give some examples of foreign business income controlled from India or foreign profession income set up in India.
I gave you the example of Harish Salve. Harish Salve is practicing in India as a lawyer. His profession is in India. He represents outside India also. He has a profession which is set up in India, but earning income from outside India also. And if he has total income in India more than 15 lakh, what is 15 lakh for him? It may be 15 crore or maybe more than 15 crore. He will be treated as, he can come to India only for 119 days if he wants to be non-resident. But if he wants to come to India for more than 190 days, between 120 to 181 days, he'll be called not ordinary resident. And the moment he is not ordinary resident, the professional income which he has outside India and which is set up in India will be taxable in India. You may get the relief of that in foreign country. But you have to see the treaty also. Please, treaty also.
Makes sense. Thank you. This is clear. The next question is from Siddharth Patni. Sir, please explain situation. What will be taxable position regarding people which are in India or abroad due to COVID-19 situation, as they cannot go?
I told you that this started only in the month of March, about for 10 days. And in April is the new year. Let us new year, let us wait. It is not going to make any difference. Now force majeure is there for the last. Some concession may be given to them. So far it is not done because the flights were closed. This is not there. We have already taken in an ordinance the force majeure clause. So they may come out with some benefit to for them. Those who were there between the local period could not go abroad. And due to that, they have become resident of India. That concession may be given to them.
Yeah, I could add to that. OECD has also recently come out with a paper that some sort of a relaxation could be available. Australian Tax Authority has also published. UK Tax Authority.
Obviously, this is a global problem. This is not an Indian problem. This is a global problem. Once there is a global problem, every country will have to give this relaxation. And that relaxation is force majeure. So they will give you. Don't worry. Wait and watch. Abhi to khatam hi nahi hua. You have to file your return later. Wait a minute. That can be done by that time. Let us be over with this COVID problem. We'll give you the benefit.
Next question from Hardeep Singh. In most cases, the department demands exaggerate amounts. For example, the entire revenue is considered as profit in gross negligence of expense incurred.
Wait a minute. In India now, in India only, now there will be e-assessment. And when there is going to be e-assessment, you have to file e-return, e-assessment. This type of a thing cannot happen because this will be done by group of the assessing officer. There will be group of assessing officer. There will be verification officer. There will be technical officer. They will not do this because they will be held responsible later on. So this is only recent start. This is the lead taken by India that all assessment will be e-assessment. Please, you should thank India. India is very, very proactive, I tell you. The decision taken by our prime ministers are really very proactive.
Next question. Can Section 6(1)(a) overrule Section 6(1) due to non-obstinate clause?
It is written there. Section 1A starts with notwithstanding anything contained under Section 6(1). It always starts with it. Notwithstanding anything contained under Section 6(1), an individual India who's citizen of India, whose total income exceeds 15 lakh. So it starts with notwithstanding clause. Sorry, I didn't mention that time, but old 6(1)(a) or your new amended 6(1)(a) starts with notwithstanding anything contained under 6(1). That's why I told you, even if you are not here for 1 day, you become deemed resident if your total income in India is more than 15 lakh. That's what I told you. But don't worry, not ordinary resident also don't have to pay tax. It is only Indian income, but foreign income is only when you are a sole proprietor of a business outside India or you are a profession which is outside India but set up in India. So why are you so worried, sir? Now it is relaxed. You should be worried about dividend and not for anything else.
Any relief for seafarers in view if number of days reduced?
There, sir. We already have a clause A saying that in case of an individual who is a member of a cruise of Indian ship who travels along with the ship, the period of 60 days shall be treated as 181 days. Now wait. Seafarer is not doing business outside India. Seafarer is not carrying on any profession outside India. So he has to pay tax in Indian income. He was otherwise paying tax on Indian income. So where is the need? Where is the need? Had he been carrying on a business outside India, had he been doing profession outside India, then you would have said he's put into difficulty. He's not put into difficulty at all. But only thing is that now, even if he becomes non-ordinary resident by coming back to India for 181 days, how does it matter? It is only Indian income which is going to be taxed, not the foreign income. Whether he pays tax outside India or not, how does it matter? Even if he becomes deemed a resident, how does it matter? It does not matter to him.
One more question. Some clients are remitting money out of India. In these days, banks are insisting for 15 CB and 15 CA. Is there any relaxation for issue of same?
One thing is, it is only State Bank of India, where I am the director, of course, is asking for 15 CB. Otherwise, it is 15 CA. It is 15 CA, which is to be done. And money setting out of India, let me tell you, now remittance under liberalized scheme. There are two things. One is non-resident taking money outside India. Another, resident sending money outside India. For resident, it is liberalized scheme, $250,000. But why are they asking for 15 CAAs? That authorized dealer is under an obligation to, you have to send it online. 15 CA is online, and online you can do it at home. When you are going to bank for sending the money online, you can do it at home also 15 CA. It is only the State Bank, and I have told them, why are you asking for 15 CB? It should be 15 CA also. Probably they want to give the business to the chartered accountant, because chartered accountant have the 15 CB benefit, because they have to give the report.
So I think last two questions, sir. If property owner is
NRI, take it because I have to leave the meeting.
Sure. If property owner is NRI and rent paid is INR, what is the rate of TDS?
The same rate. You tell you, if the under 195, there are certain specified rate. If they are not there, you are individual, it is 30%. It is 30%.
It's a last question and little bit forward-looking question. We are moving towards rationalization of direct tax and in anticipation of direct tax code. Now with the COVID-19 situation,
it's not a direct tax code first. It is an income tax law. We are not making code. Tell me now.
And with this COVID-19 situation exerting pressure on fiscal, do you foresee again we going back to a higher tax regime 2-3 years down the line?
So let me tell you one thing. This is a global issue, not an issue for India. These countries will sit together. Of course, they will discuss. But India is coming out lot of packages. The package has come for what you call bank package. Now the package has come for exports also. Yesterday, only Commerce Ministry has given package for exporters also. You are going to get relief package for many other also. And this is a question which cannot be answered at this moment. Let us wait and watch the situation. What is going to happen, no one knows. Let me tell you one thing. Whatever God does, it is for the best.
Fantastic, sir. That was on a positive note.
Please be optimistic. Don't be pessimistic at all. The God is very kind to everybody. The God does the best. There must be something. So blessing in disguise. Wait and watch. We will all take care. Be in your homes. Don't go out. And if at all that orange or green or orange or green or red, whatever happens now, that you take care and look after that. And please donate as much as you can, or help as much as you can if you don't want to donate directly to the poor people, so that things go in the favor of this country. This country has done a good job by doing lockdown well in advance.
Fantastic, sir. On this positive note, I think on behalf of the Hong Kong chapter and the Asian chapters of ICI, our heartfelt gratitude to you. I now hand it over to the Pune chapter.
Thank you.
Pune chapter, over to you.
Abhishek is coming on the line. Yes, Abhishek, tell me.
Sir, Samir, can you please put across vote of thanks?
Unmute to karte nahi na. Please unmute. You are mute.
Hello? I request Kashinath to please propose vote of thanks.
Yes, now. Tell me now. Yeah, I can hear you now.
I myself, Samir.
Acha, Samir.
Yeah.
Samir Ladal. Tell me.
Yes,
Vice
sir.
Chairman.
Sir, thanks a lot on behalf of Pune branch and Hong Kong chapter and all audience to you. So you have given as always a lot of wisdom of knowledge to you, and it will help all of us in coming years. Thanks a lot again, sir. Thank you very much.
Welcome. Thank you very much. I would like to leave the meeting because I have another meeting. Thank you.
Anand is also joining us.
Take care. Please, all of you, take care.
Yes, sir. So Anand is also joining us. Yes, Anand.
Hello. Hear me?
Yeah, I think he joined some other meeting. He had some other meeting at around
Okay.
this time, perhaps. Yeah.
Okay, no problem.
Hello.
Yes, Anand, we are waiting to hear from you.
I think we have lost him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, the legend. Every year, you are continuously guiding the participants in seminars at Pune. But every time, size of the comes restriction, and this time due to this webinar, thousands and thousands of members, but across the globe could take benefit. The most important thing, most of those participants have qualified studying books authored by you, agreeing with me, Hong Kong chapter, and I congratulate of our Techno-Savvy chairman Abhishek Damne and his team. Respected participants, as a treasurer of WIRC, in the current scenario, I must share an update with all of you that ICI is contributing in a big way to the PM Care and PM Relief Fund, and lots of contribute.
Okay, I think so. The signal was weak there. Kashinath, I would now request you to please formally put across vote of thanks.
Good morning, all of you. I deem it an honor and privilege to propose vote of thanks. I would like thanks to say Dr. Girish Ahuja sir for wonderful insight in NRI taxation. I also thanks all of you for patient hearing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we will have more webinars with Hong Kong branch and East Asian branches and chapters.
Yes, sir. Anupji, we would like to seek your help for that.
And if Hong Kong chapter wants to suggest any topics, we will be happy to receive those topics and arrange those webinars.
Sure. I will talk to Anupji. We are organizing one on economic environment by Prithviraj Srinivasan. He's the chief economist of Axis Bank Group. I'll talk to Anupji if we can all collaborate and share as much जितना knowledge share करेंगे उतना ही अच्छा है. तो हम लोग जो कर रहे हैं आप लोग के साथ share करेंगे and vice versa, and likewise we all offer synergies to each other.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you everyone for joining.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
We will be organizing more seminars with foreign chapters. See you soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Goodbye.